Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to a representation of my reaction review. I tried to go into some analysis, again it was pretty fresh in my mind, but of Fullmetal Alchemist. I did the 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist series, and then I watched Brotherhood, and both of them, beginning to end, the movie as well in the first one, and did a reaction. It's one of the few series I've actually watched all the way to the end and posted reactions on. It was I really enjoyed them. Really enjoyed, obviously, Brotherhood more, but really enjoyed them. So I'm reposting that because it's been a while, and now this summer I'm revisiting anime and talking about it occasionally, and I thought it'd be good to repost those, and maybe I'll add to them. Maybe I'll do a rewatch eventually at some point. I am going to post on the shows that I've watched already but haven't talked much about publicly, at least in good videos that I'm proud of or whatever, which includes My Hero Academia, Cowboy Bebop, Standalone Complex, Chronicles of Arslan, and whatnot. So, or Legend of Arslan, I always get that mixed up. But yeah, I'll come back to those as well. I am, as you know, if you watch my channel, I've been watching Naruto and enjoying that and commenting and reacting on it video-wise. But I do want to start another series, so it's not just a summer of Naruto. And I do enjoy, those kind of superhero, shonen-styled anime, but I don't want to blast through all of those popular ones at once. So I know One Punch Man is one I'm definitely going to watch, but I don't want to jump into it just yet. I thought maybe a slight genre shift for the next series that I give a try to. So I've got two in mind. Here's your chance. Anime fans love to tell me what I should watch, but I'm only deciding between these two right now because people have mentioned them enough to me that they've stuck in my mind, and I checked out the trailers and the sort of premise behind both, and I was like, both of those actually sound pretty decent. So if you want to vote for one or the other, let me know in the comments, as you hopefully will enjoy the Fullmetal Alchemist review, the older one that I did here. But I'm thinking of Vinland Saga or Fate Zero. One of the other two, those are both of them look pretty good to me. So I don't want to hear why you hated one. I just want to hear which one, if you like either of those. Neither of those might not be to your taste, but if you liked one or the other, one more than the other, let me know the strengths of it or whatever. No spoilers obviously, but I'll try to make up my mind on which one I'll watch based on that. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this Fullmetal Alchemist initial ideas. I've probably got more now that it's been so long, but these were my initial ideas and reactions and whatever depth of analyses I was able to conjure up at that point some years ago. So yeah, I'll see you back with more anime content this summer. Thanks for watching. I finished out the 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist series, and I've watched The Conqueror of Shambhala. And so I've got the whole story of the 2003 series down now. There's nothing else to partake of, as I understand it. And going through Fullmetal Alchemist, I really enjoyed it. I really did. It initially hooked me. It hooked me really well. These characters are characters that I was invested in. I cared about. I understood their plight. I was rooting for them. I like the idea that they were these kids, teenagers who were just exhibiting the abilities so strongly with alchemy that they were able to join the military and become state alchemists and everything like that. The setup was interesting, having the Führer. I mean, you don't throw that name around, Führer, lightly. And I get that it was a dictatorship, but I didn't really see, at first anyway in the series, I didn't see a lot of connections. Like, what is what are they really going here for? What for here? Why are they calling him Führer? What's the setup? And then, of course, a lot of that was revealed, how the government is corrupt, and the Führer, at least in the first series anyway, ends up being a homunculus. And yeah, all that made sense. I did not like the series finale at all because one real cardinal sin it did, and that was when Al is brought back, his body's brought back from the gate and united with his soul. Suddenly, he's lost all of his memories from the time that Ed has spent with him recently in their time as state alchemists, but also all the time that we've spent with him as a character ever since the first episode of Fullmetal Alchemist. You don't do that. That's completely taking away one of the main characters that we've invested in and spent so much time with, because the Al at the end of the series finale, that Al, that's a different character. All of his memories are gone. He's gone back. He's reverted back to his age, maturity level, and everything like that, to the Al that was, before he and Ed decided to try and bring their mother back with human alchemy, human transformation. So, people say, oh, it's the same character. No, it's not. I mean, all of his memories are good. That's a different character. You've taken away the Al that we've known and loved, and you've substituted this person, and it messed up so many things. It didn't make sense. It was unsettling to the viewer. It also unsettled the relationship. Like, Ed's wanting to go back to him, and of course Ed will still care about him as his brother, but I mean, what's the point? I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same relationship. It was just really a dumb move to make. And then I found out that, okay, they were always planning on doing the Conqueror of Shambhala. So I thought, okay, well, let me give this a chance. And watching the Conqueror of Shambhala, for the most part, going into the film, I liked a lot of things. I loved that it brought French slang into it. That was awesome. The crossover to our world was a nice way. I mean, that was established, of course, in the 2003 series, at the end there. But I like that crossover was a nice way to link it to the, to the German Nazis, the real Nazis in our world, quote unquote, to the ones in Al's world. That was good. I liked the idea that there's doppelgangers on either side. The themes were there. I liked at the end of the Conqueror of Shambhala. I love the fact that we've got Al back. Al finally does regain his memories. That's what I was hoping for. So that was okay then. I was happy about that, and I even enjoyed knowing that he got them back. Then allows me to enjoy that little moment of him losing them as kind of part of his story arc. Because when he went off and studied with Teacher more and regained all and was able to discover these powers to put his soul into armor and stuff like that because of the time he'd spent, in the suit of armor, that was great. So this is now part of his story arc, and that was okay. He got his memories back in the end, so I was fine with that. And I like the fact that Ed constantly says at the end of Conqueror of Shambhala that they can't just worry about themselves anymore. They have to be concerned about the wars and the things that are happening to the world around them. That's a great character arc. That's a great progression in them, because the two of them had always been, Ed anyway, Al was always more concerned with morals and stuff like that, but Ed anyway, for the most part, had always just been, world be damned, everybody around us be damned, all we're about is just getting our bodies back. That's all we want to do. And you didn't hate him for it. You understood where he was coming from, but it's a nice progression at the end of Conqueror of Shambhala to see him exhibit that growth. That was really great. I liked the connections it made. It did seem to tie together some themes really well that were in the series. It made sense a bit. I liked Mustang. At first I thought, at the end of the series finale, you kind of get the idea anyway, or it's easily inferred that he and Hawkeye are maybe going to be together, or they have some sort of understanding there. She's nursing him back to health. And then to find out all of a sudden that he's on the edge of the frontier or whatever, that was a bit of a jump. That didn't make a lot of sense there. But I liked him coming back. His return was pretty epic when he comes back and suddenly just starts giving orders again. And then that one moment when he tells everybody where to go and what to do at that final battle, and then she's just left there saluting him. That was really cool. That was really touching, the two of them there. I like that. So I like a lot of the things about what they tied it up with. And I'll get to what I didn't like about what they tied it up with in a second. But in general, I think if I was going to make a comment on the Conqueror of Shambhala, I think it's rushed. I like a lot of what it does with the story, but I think it rushes far too much. Not just the Conqueror of Shambhala, but also the end of the series as well. The last few episodes, I feel like were rushed. I don't know how that worked out, if they'd only ordered so many episodes, or if they knew that it had to end at a certain time. I don't know what the deal was there, but I feel like they could have used, honestly, another season rather than just have Conqueror of Shambhala be a film to cap it off. I feel like it would have been better developed and a better pacing if it had another season to do that with. I don't know necessarily if that would have been great with the decision they made or not, but that's just, in terms of pacing, it was a bit rushed. What I didn't like about Conqueror of Shambhala was at the very end. So at the very end of Conqueror of Shambhala, Al and Ed are left over here in our world. That's the big thing. They're left over here so that they can close the gate, and then Mustang closes the gate on the other side. That's kind of a slap in the face too. It's not, it's a slap in the face on the level of having Al lose his memories. Maybe not quite as much, but we spent so much time with these characters in their world. And Winry has been such an important part of their journey, and it kind of that's the character that it really slapped in the face was Winry at the end there. Having her just sort of, what does she do in the Conqueror of Shambhala movie? Really, she was just there to give Ed his new arm and leg, his new automail arm and leg. That's really it. If you could have had him gain that arm and leg some other way, you wouldn't have even needed her in that story. So she was really underutilized, and underutilized in the manner in which we're invested in her. Having watched her in the series, we know she's important to these characters. You've already developed that. So you can't just not use her. You can't just toss her aside at the end. That's bad storytelling. So I didn't like the way she was underutilized. And then in the end, with her just being left behind there, no, that's not right. That's not good. That doesn't work for me. Now, if this was like the first movie, if there was going to be a second one or whatever that showed Ed and Al's journey in our world, more of their adventures here, where they can't even use alchemy. That's the thing. I mean, everything you love about them was because they're alchemists. They've got these powers and all that, and their grit and their personality and all that kind of stuff. But to just end with them over in our world now, over in our boring old world, in terms of their magical, mystical world we're going into, just from a mythological standpoint, it's not magical, mystical in the conception of it. But just no, not a good taste to leave in people's mouths. It really isn't. Some of the ways they tied it up, I mean, I like the idea of the gypsies there being the counterpart to the Rashbalans, is that what they were called in their universe? That was nice. I like the little moment where they see Scar's doppelganger there with the gypsies too. I mean, so the little touches like that were really great, but it just dropped the ball with that whole Ed and Al being left over on this side. There's so much more that could have developed. It would have been a nice cap on their character progression to have them go on and remain in this new military. What are they going to build now with Mustang? Now that the Fuhrer is gone, I mean, that was kind of set up at the end of the series, but, give us more of that. Let us know what's going on in this universe now that we spent so much time in, that we've invested ourselves in. And who cares about Nazi Germany? Let's go back to that one. So that was a real disappointment as a viewer and a real disappointment as a storyteller, myself, in seeing them make that choice when they had made a lot of good choices. Watching Brotherhood now, that's the next step. And I'm hoping for a better ending, a better development of the story, the second half through. I do really like the Homunculi. They're cool characters, and I'd like to see. I've heard that maybe they're not as developed or not as used much in Brotherhood. I don't know. This is just little random things I've heard here and there. So, but I'm hoping that there's more done with them, because they're fascinating characters. I love the idea that. I mean, they really do. At least in Fullmetal Alchemist, the 2003 series, they follow their the sins that they're named for. Their personalities really follow that. So lust, I mean, to lust is to want something that's forbidden, and lust wants so badly to be a human, and they all kind of want to be a human, but she wants it even more so, and to the point where she will disobey, her leaders and stuff like that. So that was a really cool naming for her. Gluttony, obviously gluttony, that's pretty obviously one way he's called gluttony. Envy, finding out that envy is actually Edward and Al's father's first son, so obviously envious of them. That was great. I mean, that was a good point. What else? Pride being the Fuhrer himself. That obviously made sense, taking pride. Sloth was interesting. Sloth is, it's not just being lazy, like a lot of people think. Sloth is actually knowing that you need to do something, but not doing it. So knowing you should go do X, Y, and Z, but then not doing it anyway, that's sloth. And I'm still wrapping my head around that one. She's the remains of their mother. And this is that she says this, she develops this herself at the end of her life in the series, when she's about to be melted or dissipated by Ed, and what he's just done to the chemical makeup of her body, because she's all water. She says, I know I have these maternal feelings for you. I know I'm supposed to have these feelings for you, but I don't want them, because that's your mother in me, and I want to be my own person. So she knows, she has a sense of what she should be doing, but she's decided that she's not going to do it. That's good. That's good development. That's sloth right there. That's the definition. I think we covered all of them. Is that all 7? I don't know. Might be forgetting one. Wrath, of course. Wrath. Yeah, he wants Wrath is to want revenge or whatever. He's wanting the full body of Al. That made a lot of sense, and of course he wants revenge on them for killing Sloth, in the end at some point. So that was really well developed. So I like the idea of the Homunculi. They're a really cool concept, and I'd like to see a little bit more done. If not with each one of them individually, at least done more with the concept of them in Brotherhood. I'm hoping to see that. So we'll see what goes on. From Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, I got a much better idea of what the series is truly about than I did the first series. So I know, and for those of you who don't know or are new to it like I was, the Fullmetal Alchemist series started out being pretty true to the manga, but I think it passed the manga in terms of publication date, so it had to kind of do its own thing and write its own conclusion, kind of like a Game of Thrones deal. And I think it did the best it could, not being the original writers. It wasn't horrible, but it had some issues. And Brotherhood really feels like you're sticking with the original writer, the original creator who conceived all of these ideas. You're seeing them all come to fruition under her guiding hand. And I really appreciate that. It was a lot more fun to really delve into the character arcs. Everything just ramped up and up and up toward the end, and it just was an amazing climax. Really well paced. I think now that I've got a better idea of what Fullmetal Alchemist is about from the Brotherhood series, this is a story about the bonds we have as humans and the sacrifice necessary to maintain those bonds that we have as humans. I think that's how I would phrase it in terms of an overall theme. Because the bonds between humans, the specific bond of brotherhood that's obviously in the story, you've got Edward and Alphonse, and you've got some other brothers here and there, different. There's a duality kind of thing. Their teacher's husband, when he has that sort of bromance thing going on with Major Armstrong, which is great. But you also had Major Armstrong and his sister, the General. You had the bond between Mustang and Hawkeye. There was even the bond, to a certain degree there, between Hohenheim and the homunculus that is made in Hohenheim's image there. That was, so we've got this duality, this repetition of relationships in terms of a dual bond. But it goes out bigger than that, too, in terms of the human bond. And this is, seen with the Rushbalans and the Amestrians and the responsibilities and the treatments and the relationships that two cultures or peoples would have together. Even with the different factions in Qing, Mei and Ling and their different families and different houses going at each other and stuff like that. So you have this repeating theme of human bonds, at various different levels. And then the idea of alchemy brings in the whole idea of sacrifice, and that you get what you give, that kind of idea, right? In terms of you can only receive, so if you give something of equal value or worth, that's the basic principle of alchemy. And the whole series is set up there with the idea that that's the principle of alchemy that they believed in. And by the end of it, the great character journey, the great story arc, is that they realize they want a new principle. It's not you get something of equal value or worth as to something that you're willing to give. It's that you get something, but then you give back more. So you see the subtle shift here. That's a perfect character progression. Edward and Alphonse set out to receive their bodies back. They wanted, even before that, when they did the first human transformation alchemy, they wanted to have their mother back. It's something selfish they wanted. So they're willing to give, something for that. And then they wanted their own bodies back. But it's not until the end that the journey they've been on, as they thought, to receive their bodies back, ends up being the journey that teaches them that it's not about what you receive at all, it's about what you give. And that was really great. So when he has that conversation, Alphonse has the conversation at the end of the series with Hughes's wife and daughter, and he tells them about this new principle where we're going to try to give back more than we get. I mean, that's growing up. That's basic. It's a basic lesson you learn with successful relationships and the bonds that you have in your life with loved ones and friends and stuff like that. So that was a great overall character arc to see all the characters go on to some degree. I appreciated that. That was really cool. The automail idea is a great idea, and it's true. I mean, it's a great steampunk addition, but I think there's also some thematic resonances of that as well, in terms of the idea that these are metal limbs which are grafted to your nerves. They become a part of you, and it's the idea that you are not limited to just what you see of your own body. Your nerves, so to speak, can connect to things out there in the world, and they can become part of you. So whether it's an automail arm or a leg, or whether it's a government that you are linked to at whatever level, are a family that you're linked to. You know, your nerves, so to speak, are connected to them, and they become a part of you. So it echoes out that bigger picture, which I think the whole story is trying to tell. So that was really good. It just gave me this full appreciation. But I did appreciate all of the developments of that. The ending was just pitch perfect, even right up until the credits at the ending episode, and you see the photo montage on the wall, and you get to see even more of what's been going on with their lives. So you see Mustang as actually the Fuhrer with the mustache and everything, and Hawkeye by his side. You see Winry and Edward. You see their children, which was really cool to see. You see May grown up a little bit more. I don't know if her and Al ever actually get together or something like that. So that was really great to see a lot of those little things. And they showed more, but some of them aren't coming to mind right now. So it was a really good closure. Even the fact that Edward lost his alchemy in the end, he sacrificed that. On the one hand, that bothers you because he's been such a great hero with his alchemy, but on the other hand, that's the perfect closure for his character arc, for him to give that up, his truth, quote unquote, everything he was hanging his hopes on to receive what he wanted from the world. He gives that up, gives that for Al's sake, and then he receives what he truly wants, which is Al, a brother, which is family, which is all of that. So I think, though, that I see a real symbolic significance there in the idea of that door being his truth, and that's what he sacrifices in the end. Because when they first start to talk about the truth, people who see the truth are able to complete a transmutation without drawing a circle. They can clap their hands and their hands form the circle, that kind of idea or whatever. That's incredibly symbolic. And then later on, they start to talk about the truth as their truth or your truth. You know, it's Edward sacrifices his truth, not the capital T truth of all, you know, right? It's his truth. So that's the point. When you see your truth, when you claim your truth, that's a very individualizing thing. That's a very that's just wrapped up in yourself. So what does that mean? That means that you form your own circle. Your hands, which should be reaching out to take hands with other people to touch and contact the world around you, they're now closed. You're in a closed circle, and that's how you can form transmutation with your truth. And again, keeping in this theme of it being about their arc, learning that it's not about getting, it's about giving. That's what he sacrifices in the end was so beautifully poignant. On the one hand, I didn't like to see this great hero lose his power, but on the other hand, it's just a perfect story part to where he sacrifices his truth to where he's no longer able to, close his circle around him with just himself. Now he opens that circle to Al, to family or whatever, and they decide it's about giving rather than getting. That was just beautifully poignant, I thought. You saw that in Greed's story arc as well. Greed realizing Ling telling him that you think you want all this power, all of this everything. What you really want is friendship, is respect, is the esteem of others that respect you and care about you. And that was a great story arc for him too. And for a homunculus like Greed to be redeemed like that in the end was just brilliant, really great. And in Pride coming back as a child, that's kind of interesting. I'd like to see how that played out, if there's any kind of sequel or anything like that. So all in all, just so much about the series is superior to the first one. I would never recommend somebody just start watching Brotherhood, though, if they haven't read the manga or they haven't seen the first anime. Because the first anime, as people had told me, it was so much more developed in terms of the origin and introduction of the characters. You really become attached to them a lot more, and you really do feel for them, a lot more in that. So this Brotherhood knew that people had already watched the first one. Most people, anyway, were going to watch Brotherhood. So they just kind of jumped in, a bit ahead and started telling the story more or less where the first series dropped the ball in terms of the manga continuity. So I do recommend that people, if they're going to come to it afresh and they haven't read the manga, start watching, I guess, up to a certain extent in the first series, and then take over the Brotherhood one. That was one minor little drawback to the series. The other minor drawback is I think that the first series better developed the idea of the homunculi. By which I mean the specific homunculi that are the 7 deadly sins from their father, quote unquote. Because the homunculi in Brotherhood, although I loved them as characters in there, but in terms of representing the 7 deadly sins, Lust didn't really do much. I mean, she was hot, but I didn't see her character specifically lusting for much. Sloth, I didn't see much about Sloth at all. He didn't want to do things. He was lazy, but that was just kind of a cliche. It wasn't really a resounding, a resonating truth of sloth. As I said before in the other video I did in the first series, sloth is knowing that you should do something and then not doing it. So in that series, having Sloth be the homunculus made out of their mother, that was brilliant, because she told them flat out, my body wants me to feel maternal feelings for you two, but I don't want to do it, she said. That's wonderful. That's Sloth. That's brilliant. And lust was even better developed in that series, because in terms of the sin of lust or whatever, the desire, because she wanted something that she should not have. That's lust. She wanted desperately to be human more than any of the rest of them did, and that was forbidden to her, at least at the time, or the way she was wanting to go about it. So I think that the homunculi, in terms of embodying the sins that they were named after, that was better developed in the first series. The King Bradley, I think he makes a better pride than a wrath, at least from Brotherhood. That's all I'm speaking to. Maybe the manga really develops this so much better. So I'm looking forward to, like I said, reading the manga one day. The idea that this is supposed to be, a Hitler's Germany kind of idea that won the war, sort of. And you can see that more in Brotherhood than you could in the first series. I mean, you saw that little bit of setup, with the Germany and everything, and especially the flip-flop to our world or whatnot. But you see that much better in this series with Qing to the east, and it didn't talk so much about what was to the west. In the end, when it said that Alphonse was heading east to learn all he could from there about alchemy and everything, but that Edward was going to head west to see what he could learn from there, it had never really talked about anything that was west of Amestria. So I did want to know a little bit more about, okay, well, where is he going then? What is he supposed to be doing? What is in the west? At least let us know that. So that's something I would have liked to have seen. But those are just little things that if I would have to give it, things to improve on if it was going to write another draft or a sequel or whatever. These are things that I would like to see. But man, it blew me away. It was incredibly well written. I just can't believe how there's so many different characters in the story, in the series, and none of them feel extraneous. None of them feel redundant. They all feel like they were necessary at some point or another. And even the ones with the least amount of screen time and the smallest arcs really did come in, and they, every time they would pop back on the screen, you cared about them. You were able to piece together their arc from the last time you saw them. It's just good. That's good storytelling and good character development, good character movement. And so I really appreciated that. It was just a great